to kind of talk about how we manage silence because our strategies are very different.
They are very different.
And I find that very interesting.
So I think it would be kind of fun for us to kind of talk through or debate a little bit about cold calling in the classroom. Is there a place for it? Yes, no? What are our thoughts on that?
Okay.
So I'm going to let you start. Like, what do you think about cold calling in the classroom?
I mean, I think you know how I feel about cold calling in the classroom, which is that it makes me uncomfortable personally, which is interesting because I was like always a very participatory student. If someone had called on me, I would have had no problem participating, but being on the other side of it just makes me really uncomfortable.
Is that?
I don't know. I feel bad. I feel bad. I don't know. I don't want to like force them. Whereas I know you are kind of the opposite.
Yeah, and believe me, I didn't like being called on in class. And I think this is part
Yeah.
of what's interesting. It's where maybe I'm wrong, but perhaps for you, some of your preferences as a learner that you want to control over when you answered, right? Raise my hand or not, then is possibly how you lead some of your teaching, right? So letting your students also have some control and not wanting to be, you know, putting someone on the spot if they're not ready because you as a learner didn't really, want that or that wasn't motivating to you, right? That wasn't going to help you stay in the thick of it. Whereas for me, I think as a DPT student, I did not have my hands up and I kind of was more of a quiet student. But then realized in residency how much it helped me when I had to be on the spot and when people asked me tough questions and I had to like sit with this uncomfort that I think now I lead some of those kind of conversations with students in the classroom from
Hmm.
that place of me
Yeah.
realizing that in the end it ended up feeling beneficial to me,
Yeah.
right?
I don't know their experience, right? Because I wasn't the student that got called on in that way. And so I being like overly sensitive potentially to I don't know how you're gonna feel. Whereas you can come from a place of like, I know how it feels, it's not great, you'll survive.
Yeah.
And you'll be
And
better.
and that's what's so beautiful about our teaching strategies, right? They're different. And I love that you have the students' emotions, kind of like front and center in how you engage that way. And that's not to say that I don't care, right, about the students and how they feel. I certainly do. And yet I feel like there is a place for cold calling in the classroom if it can be done in a way where students don't feel judged and instead is done in a place where we're trying to promote recall, right? And retrieval practice. And that I think a fun way that Libby, you and I have kind of come around this idea of warm calling, where, hey, students, I'm going to ask some questions and I'm going to put some of you on the spot, but this is coming from like this, my heart. It's coming from a very kind place. I'm not judging you, but want to hear where you are and understand where you are to help you grow.
Mhm.
So, I mean, how do you think students feel about that?
When I say I don't like to cold call people, you're like, I'm not cold calling anybody. So yeah, I bet most students honestly sort of like appreciate the the push, I would bet. And then I'm sure there are some students that are like, oh my God, please don't ever call on me, right? I get that. One thing that I think is really critical to the way that you do this is that that feels authentic to you, right?
Mm.
And like thinking about like authentically teaching, it doesn't feel that authentic to me. I do the opposite where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna need so and so to sit on their hands because someone else needs to talk to us. right? Which I only do when I have like trust with them and I know that they are going to think that's kind of funny and not feel called out. Um, but that kind of, I guess, like giving them a hard time a little bit is more authentic to me than the warm call. Yeah. Yeah. And I think I like obviously there's a lot of value to putting the students in that position. And I think the value, I mean, I try to like invite them in a way, and I think um in some ways like there's value to learning in what way you are willing to contribute self-initiated, and also like exploring why am I not participating here.
Yeah. So it's just, I think that's what I love so much about us and our conversations about teaching. It's that we can have different methods and talk through the pros and cons of them and then use each other's
Mhm.
strategies, right, as we go, where I might be thinking about, a conversation that we've had and consider a different lens for why the students are quiet or why I might not press on, a certain response in a given situation. And so I think it's really nice to be able to
Yeah.
to think this way.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's also important that we help the students with an out. So if you're going to use like a warm calling technique, this is when you would tell the students, you can pass to another peer. You can just say, hey, I don't know. You can say, oh, let me check my notes, right? So that we provide some safety. I think the way that you frame it and set up for it is really important. And I think even giving some of your own past experience. I remember in residency when it was really hard when I would get called on, and I found that when I leaned into that challenge, I learned more. Right. And then students have an explicit understanding of, oh, this is her why. And that gets back
Yeah.
to the right, authentic and transparent teaching.
I'm not just asking you to participate so that I can be like, oh, everybody should be participating. I'm in charge. Like, that's not what it is. I'm asking you to participate because I don't know the specifics of what you lost on. I don't know where to stop, what gaps to fill. And the only reason we're all here together is to fill the gaps and help you figure out how to put this into a framework that's going to work for you going into future education, clinical practice, etc. Yeah.
So it sounds like, hey, maybe there are many ways to handle participation. Calling or worm calling, maybe one way. There's certainly other ways to help students be able to show up and engage as
Mhm.
they are most comfortable.
Yeah. Authenticity on all sides.
And community. I love it.